You're listening to the new episode of GNERD Corner's film show called Cinematic GNERDgasm. Tonight, we review Edge of Tomorrow with special guest Jess Hurley. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our new episode.
What I am about to tell you sounds crazy, but you have to listen to me. Your very lives depend on it.
This is not the end.
You see, this isn't the first time. Now, we've had this conversation. What day is it?
Judgment Day. You just came in with the fresh recruits.
Welcome, listeners, to a brand new episode of GNERD Corner's film show, and we finally got a name. I would like to introduce you to our new show called Cinematic GNERDgasm. Yes, it's a name that will make you want to take a wire brush to your eardrums, because it's one of those names that you want to get out of your head, but you just can't. Hi there, everybody. I am your host, JPOOL, and I am joined by my special guest host once more. Give it up for Jess Hurley.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Hey there, Jess. How's your night?
It's been good. Been good. And I actually have this movie that we're going to be reviewing tonight very fresh in my mind since I just saw it on Friday night. So we're ready to talk about that.
Nice. Have you been experiencing any deja vu, any repetitive days?
Actually, like the last three, because I've been off the last three, and it seems like I wake up every morning in the same bed. So that might be part of that whole revamping of the day thing.
Yeah, if you wake up and the next day Bill Murray is in your bed, then you might have a problem.
Right, yeah. Then I'd be a little bit concerned.
Maybe Andy McDowell. Maybe that will work.
And no.
Still Andy McDowell from the 80s?
No, I like my girlfriend pretty much. I'd rather keep her.
So for the listeners who are wondering and scratching their heads why I'm talking about that old film called Groundhog's Day, well, this film is sort of like Groundhog's Day. It's technically about a man finding himself in a time loop where he keeps repeating the same day over and over again. And a lot of people love the movie Groundhog, and they've been saying that, you know, at least as the trailer represents, shows Tom Cruise's character constantly reliving the same day and then dying and reliving it again. Right.
Yeah, there's another movie actually that's kind of, and it's not really the same premise, but I don't know if you ever saw Vantage Point.
Yes.
It kind of reminded me of that too. It's not the same exactly, but the repetitiveness of, I would say, just really for about the first 20 minutes or so. Then once it's almost like kind of training you, and this is what I found was really interesting about this movie. It's kind of training you to get your mind to think up to a certain point each time they start a new day. So then when they start skipping parts or whatever, your mind's already up to that point. So it's okay. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It only does that for a certain section of the film. So you're not seeing the same thing over and over and over. It feels like that at first, but it's really just kind of like how the introduction goes.
Exactly. And it's really interesting to see all the actors repeat the same lines except for Tom Cruise's character, and he keeps wondering at first if he's going absolutely crazy. Actually,
right.
I actually forgot to say the title of this film. The title of this film is Edge of Tomorrow.
Right.
So yeah, I personally, before I really give a rating at the end of this podcast, I enjoyed this film. I saw this in IMAX. I saw it later on in the regular theaters 2 more times. I really enjoyed this film, and I'm going to explain why I enjoyed this film later on. But yeah, another hit for Tom Cruise, personally.
Right. Yeah. We'll get into it, but I did have some issues with the movie, but I'm not going to say that I didn't like it. I actually thought it was a really good film, but I did have a few issues with it. We'll get into that too. Did you want to cover the premise, or?
Yeah, I'll do the premise this time.
Okay.
So apparently there is a race of aliens called mimics that technically look like squiddies from The Matrix. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah. Yeah, they kind of do look like squiddies. And they've invaded Earth, and the military, or technically the world's militaries, are getting wiped out until one battle changes it all, and they win one battle. And the hero that comes out of there is, Rita Rutowski, I believe her name is?
Right. They had another name for her that I actually like better, but they don't really use it in the film very much. The Angel of something. Well, they call her
Angel of Verdun.
That's it.
Or for the soldiers, they call her the Full Metal Bitch.
Oh yeah.
That was awesome. Written on like a bus and everything, and it's just
right.
That is so that is so anime. And if you know what this premise is all based on, this is based on a light novel or a manga called All You Need Is Kill. I also like that title.
Yeah, I actually probably would, for this film, I probably would have gone with that, but I can see why they called it Edge of Tomorrow. But I think it would, matter of fact, it might have done better at the box office had they called it All You Need Is Kill. I'm not sure, but it seems to me like that's actually a little bit more of a catchy title. Edge of Tomorrow, it's a good title for what the film is. It just sounds a little bit more generic than I would like it to.
Yeah.
Whereas the other title is just a lot more like oomph to it. You know what I mean? Like just the curiosity factor alone would make me want to go see that.
So. Exactly. I think it's because it has the word kill in it.
Right. That always helps when you're looking for action film, or or just a little bit of like this one is a kind of a twist on. It's got a little bit of everything. I mean, there's some unexpected humor in it. There's a ton of action, and a lot of intrigue and different oddball plot twists and things. To be honest with you, I had never read the manga, so I had no idea where this was going most of the film. So a lot of it was actually unexpected, which is kind of cool. If you've never, I mean, there's one benefit of having been exposed to something is then you have something to compare it to. Say, oh yeah, it wasn't as good as the comic, or it wasn't good as the manga, or it wasn't as good as the book. But I really didn't have anything to compare it to, so I'm kind of flying into this blind. So I think that actually enhanced my experience with the movie because of that.
Exactly. Now, Tom Cruise's character, he's not a soldier, but he finds himself in a situation where he's thrown in to be, a fighter. And he's like, wait a minute, I'm not a soldier. I'm not trained for this.
Right.
I really don't want to spoil that part for the fans because it's actually a really interesting part, and it's really, more part of the plot than anything. You'll see when you watch the film. But he gets thrown into a situation where, he doesn't know how to get out of, and then all of a sudden he's thrown into this giant battle against the mimics, and apparently he dies. And I know I'm spoiling that for people who want to see this film, but it really shows in the trailers. So
yeah, it's actually right on the poster too.
Yeah, it really is.
Feed,
so he dies, and he wakes up right after that in handcuffs, like the day right before. And he runs into, I guess, one of his COs, who's played by Bill Paxton. I just love Bill Paxton. He's awesome.
Yeah, what's weird? I haven't been a big fan of Bill Paxton since Twister came out. But in this, I actually really dug his character. I thought he did a really good job. I liked him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too, but this role, I thought he really nailed it. I thought he did a really good job in this one.
Yeah, exactly. Now, to fight the mimics, they use these like mech-like suits to fight them in, and the design is pretty much spot on from the manga. The way they are pretty much everyone, all the other soldiers have different weapons on theirs and the different designs. It's pretty much what you would see in the manga. So I was really interested actually going back in the manga and looking at the suit designs, going, wow, they really follow the designs almost to a T.
That's cool. Yeah, again, I hadn't seen that part of it, so I wouldn't know. I will say this: the suits were pretty cool, but this was one of the parts of the film that I didn't like. It was just the fact that the suits I felt almost were overplayed when they're advertising them, and this might have been part of the whole PR scheme to say we're going to defeat the mimics, we're going into this war, and we're going to, we're finally going to turn the tide or whatever, because these suits are just so amazing.
Yeah.
But when they actually get into battle, I didn't see it. I didn't see the amazingness of it. I know that basically they were touting it as the suit is like so awesome you don't even need to train. Well, it becomes obvious pretty quickly in the film that they needed to train.
They do need to train. Well, they're thrown into a situation where some of those soldiers had never even seen battle, or even the ones that did see battle, even though those suits are bionic, they're not very fast. They're very they're very clunky. It's like taking a bunch of equipment with you and throwing it in your backpack and then giving you a really heavy gun and say, okay, now run on that battlefield in front of a bunch of machine gun fire. You're going to go really, really slow. Right. So even
from that standpoint, it's actually really realistic, which and it's from that aspect I did like. I mean, like I said, the few things that I didn't like about this film are just really nitpicky little details that I thought could have done a little bit better. But I could also see where if I'm getting ready to go into this huge war or whatever, I'm not going to tell you, by the way, the suits we're sending all your soldiers in suck. You know what I mean? And they're probably all going to die.
Yeah.
So let's get gung-ho for the war. I'm going to tell them this is the best suit we've got. We really, we just had this huge victory. So I could see why they would do that. I think I was just expecting a little bit more when they got into battle, that they would actually be, pretty much badasses, for lack of a better term. And some of them are decent. I mean, they're good fighting soldiers and stuff like that. But at this point, it just kind of, I guess I expected a little bit more of the suit itself to do a little bit more than it did. But like you explained, they're a little bit clunky. They're kind of slow. They do a lot of damage, though.
They do. Which
is nice,
and they make you bionically stronger. But when you're dealing with creatures that can literally tear into you and come up from the ground, because these things, like I said, they kind of look like squiddies from the Matrix. They literally burrow into the ground and burrow upwards and grab you. And even if you have all these, machine guns and missiles on you, you're pretty much screwed if they wrap around you and pretty much shoot you with their big lasers or whatever they have. Yeah, a lot of these soldiers in here, they get wiped out really quickly.
Yeah. I will say this too: I don't know who worked on the alien designs, the aliens in this thing or whatever, but the facial expressions on the aliens and the different types of aliens that they have in this thing are just freaking fantastic looking. And this is something that really isn't I don't think very well drawn out in the previews, and this movie actually might have done better at the box office had they had focused on that just a little bit more than you see in the preview, because the aliens of this thing, they're great looking and they're fast and they move and they don't mess around, and I really dug that aspect of it too. Just the design I thought even though it is a little bit Matrixy, and it kind of also reminds me a little bit of the demons in the first Hellboy, just because they're kind of like floppy and all over the place.
kind of look like a giant squid, technically.
Yeah, or like one of those things you use to do your dishes with, where you clean the cup and it's got all the little tentacles coming out of it and stuff, that little sponge thing. Anyway, it kind of looks like that. Like this, it's all they've got arms like everywhere, but I still thought they looked awesome. Especially, I don't want to give too much away, but the design work in that is, I pay a lot of attention to that stuff, and I thought it was top notch, like really well done.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one of the things that I found really fun about this film, and some points, really hilarious, is the several times that Tom Cruise's character, let's see, what is his name? Major William Cage. That's a really interesting name to give your character.
Right.
Yeah, Major Cage. how many times he's had to learn to do specific things without dying, like trying to get out of marching around or doing push-ups with the rest of the group without being run over by a vehicle.
Right. Yeah.
People in the theater were just laughing. It was really funny, and it was interesting to see how many times it would take him to do something and get it right, because he would have to redo the day all over again and remember every single point in that day and time it out. So when I say Groundhog Day, it's pretty much that area of the movie is Groundhog Day, where he's learning new things every day. And then when it comes to the training sequence in there, I thought that was awesome.
Stop. Wait. Stop. Wait a second. Wait a second. Because I've been thinking. I mean, this thing's in my blood. So maybe there's some way I can transfer it to you.
I've tried everything. It doesn't work.
I mean, have you tried all the options?
Oh, you mean sex? Yeah, tried it.
How many times?
All right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The things they used to train him was really cool designed. I mean, a lot of movies kind of have the arena feel to them, but these machines that they're up against were really like awesome looking. And I also, just kind of talking a little bit to the pacing of it, is once you got through the first, like I said, 25 minutes of the movie or so, maybe not even that long. When they're doing each new day, it's kind of like boom, it just starts. Boom, it just starts at the next point, the next point, the next point. You can kind of start to feel the progression, which actually I think provides the audience with a sense of satisfaction that you as an audience member actually feel like you're getting a little bit further into the movie now, and the character. It's kind of I kind of found myself rooting for Cage to continue to get through. Like you're like just this one more thing, overcome this, and I thought that was actually a pretty cool aspect of the film.
Yeah, me too. And I also like how he built up this relationship with Emily Blunt's character, Sergeant Rita Vertowski, or AKA Full Metal Bitch, because she seems so hardened, like war hardened, and to see her sort of open up more and realize that he's starting to know things about her because he keeps asking a question every single time he meets her and learning more and more about her. So I found that really interesting.
Right. And it's also, and I think in some ways to his detriment too, especially in a war atmosphere, you almost don't want to have that emotional attachment, which I thought the on-screen chemistry was good. I just not a big fan of Emily Blunt at all.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and I don't know why, but even when I watched Looper, I thought the part where she showed up, that's actually where I almost checked out, because for some reason I don't know her personally, like we've never had dinner or anything like that. And I don't hang out with stars and like that, but for some reason there's something about her presence on screen that just feels a little bit checked out. And I don't know what it is about her, but it's almost like she's just not in the moment, so to speak. Other people may disagree with that, but I actually thought she was better in this film than in Looper. And I thought the chemistry was good, but she's still, I think they could have gone a different direction with the female lead in the film.
Is it because of sort of her British acting? I don't want to put you on the spot, but is it
No.
the way she presents herself as a British actress?
No, I actually like most British actresses. It's just hard to say. I compare her performance to, say, like, I'm trying to think of it. She was in the Divergent recently. She was also in Titanic. What's that gal's name? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I keep forgetting the girl's name.
Yeah, anyways.
Let's see. What was her? She was in Titanic. Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet, yeah.
Yeah.
So Kate Winslet's got a British accent. The way she handles herself in Divergent was kind of more what I would be expecting for Blunt's character in this film. Like I said, I don't know how to pinpoint what really I just don't like about her, but it just feels like she's not looking at you or the person that's directly with her. It's almost like she's looking into outer space. And that just kind of drives me nuts a little bit. That's all. Like I said, I thought their on-screen chemistry was good, especially the dialogue between the two, and how Cruz's character kind of was really getting to know her and ask her questions and things like that. But that for some reason, she just bugs me. I really can't explain it really in a good way that makes any sense. But
I think I can see what you're talking about. Personally, I found it to be she was trying to distance herself from being really emotionally attached, knowing that she dies every time around, and she doesn't want to get into that emotional state. Otherwise, it'll deter her from the mission they're trying to do. Is they're trying to find one of these main alpha mimics that apparently control the whole time, loop thing. And she knows that she used to have the power. That's how she helped win the Battle of Verdun, the battle that made everybody go, "Yay, we can actually beat these things." And then she lost the power,
right,
to loop around.
Yeah.
And
she.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was going to say, she's not a soft character in this film either.
No,
she's pretty hardcore. She doesn't even get to the day that they're on without being hardcore. And like I said, I'm trying to throw that into my analysis of her performance. I don't even know if it was this performance where my problem lies. It's just she just seems a little bit distant in her scenes. And like I said, in this film, it probably fit more than others, but I've seen this in other films with her too, with her performances. Like I said, I'm not trying to beat up on her personally, but that's just where it's just one of those little quirks that kind of just, I don't know. One of those, those little nuances sometimes that get to you in films.
Yeah.
There's another sequence in this film that kind of gets me too. The whole, and I'm trying to say this without giving too much away, but there is one offensive that they take in this movie where they're going to attack, and they don't change anything about it. And you would think that at some point, the idea would have been, let's change this particular action that we're going to take. And it seems like that never quite happens. They're always trying to figure out a way to take the action and then get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? As opposed to avoiding the action altogether.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
That part.
I think the part that I found maybe not say it's unbelievable, but there's a scene in here where her character does die, and she's died several times. Mm-hmm. But no matter what Tom Cruise's character Cage does, she keeps doing it over and over again. And you would think by some point he would find a way to really pull her back and say, "No, okay, we're not going to that barn."
Right. Yeah. And like I said, that even, there's that sequence, and then there's the other sequence where they keep ending up on the beach over and over and over again. And at one point you'd think that, I don't know, maybe he finds a way to jump out of the plane earlier, or I don't know. I guess he doesn't have that much control over what the general's going to do. Obviously, he's not in control of the situation that he's in to a large extent because he is under military command. There's a bunch of people around him that will shoot him for insubordination. So, like I said, that's just one of those little nitpicky things. There was a lot more about this film that I enjoyed than I didn't enjoy. Those are just two little tiny things. I gave it a high rating because of that. But I will say this. I don't care what people say about Tom Cruise. He's still got whatever it is that makes him a star.
Yeah.
He was fantastic in this thing. I actually found myself rooting for him and liking him. I really liked his character in the film. I wanted him to succeed. And I love that when you can take a character that like I said, I know nothing about, and with an hour and a half, 2 hours, you can convince me that I should really be rooting for this guy. And I enjoyed that, and I was rooting for her too, because you don't want her to anything bad to happen to her either.
Exactly. Tom Cruise really has, personally for me, has not made since let's see. I even like War of the Worlds. I know people around that time. That was the time when he was jumping on the couch with Oprah. and that got such bad press. Personally, I enjoyed that film. But he has been, let's see, he did Jack Reacher before this, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol. A lot of people were like up in the air with Night and Day. That got mediocre reviews. Tropic Thunder, I enjoyed that film. But no, his last couple films that he's done have been huge hits, and I love that he really puts himself in there. He's sort of a perfectionist. A lot of times, perfectionists get a little bit of annoying to work with because they want to get things perfect.
Right. Right.
But as far as his stunt work is concerned, a lot of actors wouldn't even put themselves in half the stunts that he does. I'm surprised his insurance people pretty much are saying, you're going to jump from the highest building in the world to the other side, so you're doing a green screen, right? He's like, no, I'm actually going to Dubai and jumping from one side to do. And when you actually see the making of it, you're like, that's insane. Like, you can do this in a green screen studio,
right?
But I guess he gets a thrill out of that.
Yeah, and I think in general, some of the best actors out there are a little nutty, but I can't remember a bad film he's been in a long time. And I remember a couple of years ago when Oblivion came out, not a lot of people paid attention to that, but I thought Oblivion was actually better than this film. And maybe more from an aesthetic standpoint, not really the storyline part of it. The storyline was a little bit twisty and different, like this is too. But I think just from an aesthetic, like the visuals in Oblivion, I thought were a little bit like just fantastic. But also Tom Cruise in that film was amazing.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about Oblivion. Yeah, I own that on Blu-ray. I watch it like probably once a week. It's an incredible film, beautifully rendered, masterfully written. Personally, I enjoyed the story. It's not the most original story out there, but it's when you're watching it, you sort of get your mouth drops when you realize what's going on.
Right. And I think this all kind of goes back to, and I mentioned this in my written review, I think this all kind of goes back to all the way back to Minority Report, whenever Tom Cruise, this is just my advice to the fans out there, whenever Tom Cruise does a sci-fi movie, you should go see it. Because he generally doesn't pick crap. He's picking high-quality films to be in. I know Brad Pitt was originally asked to do this role, or they wanted him for the role, or he tried out for the role. Tom Cruise, like I said, he's picked some really good films over the years. I know Minority Report came out in 92 or 2002.
Yeah.
Or 3. But yeah, next time I hear about a sci-fi movie that Tom Cruise is in, I'm definitely going to be in line to see it. I'm really kind of beating myself over the head that I hadn't seen this film earlier, because it's despite my few criticisms, it's an outstanding film. It's a great movie.
Exactly. This film is directed by Doug Liman, and he's done films like Fair Game, Jumper, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, The Bourne Identity, Go, Swingers. I actually like Go. And the Bourne Identity, that was a fun film. That started off the whole Bourne, quadrilogy. I don't like the fourth one, but that's just me. I enjoyed Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I thought Jumper could have been better. They had a lot of potential.
Yeah, Jumper I thought was missing some things that he actually, it appears, recognized maybe some of the criticisms from some of his previous films and really picked it up with this one. I also, Bourne Identity is obviously one of the top-notch films out there. I wasn't particularly fond of Go, but it more had to do with subject matter, not his directorial abilities or anything like that. But this film, just the way he does his cinematic cadence is just, I mean, when in a Groundhog's Day type of film, you couldn't really ask for a better way for them to do this type of a film, in my opinion. As far as just the way it's shot and just the way they bring you up to speed with each new thing that comes along. And like I said, it's kind of training your mind right as you're watching the film. Unless you've seen it, it's kind of hard to really pick up on that idea, but it's definitely well done in that department.
Exactly. Yeah, I really, I enjoy his direction of this film and this cinematography, especially when the plane is breaking up around it and he has to drop into battle. Sort of gives you sort of a, I would have to say, sort of a D-Day type of situation.
Right. Yeah.
It almost, it looks like at the beginning that, oh, these guys are in huge mechs, they're gonna wipe out these aliens, and then when they get on the beach, it's like, and they're literally dropping into France.
Right.
So it's when you say D-Day, it's like, oh, so they're doing another Normandy like invasion,
yeah.
except they're now trying to take back the beach from these aliens, and they're getting wiped out.
Yeah, and it's. I'm sorry not to interrupt, but I there are so many parts of this film, even during the fight scenes, where I literally found myself just cracking up out loud. Because there's a lot of unexpected, timely humor in this, which I thought added to the experience as well.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to save you. We're getting slaughtered. You need to get us off this beach. We have to go. This dropship is about to explode. We have to go now. Wait. Come on! Come on! Come on! The ship is going to explode! What are you doing?
Find me when you wake up.
What?
Come find me when you wake up.
Go!
On your feet, maggots!
Especially when Cage starts to learn, because he keeps repeating the day over and over again. He gets to train with Rotowski over and over again, and he learns new techniques and surprises his COs and all his other soldiers that he can kick ass, and they're like, wait a minute, isn't he a new recruit?
Right, yeah. It's there's just some, like I said, if you guys get a chance to see the film, I would highly recommend it, because there are some funny scenes in this movie.
Yeah, I do like how, because this is based on a manga, I do like how there are some caricatures in here that are sort of based on like manga characters. Like you have the big fat, kind of goofy guy. You have like the smart ass. You have the female character who's rough and tough. Then you have like Vertowski's character, Emily Blunt's character, who has a giant sword that looks like Cloud's sword from Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
That sword was awesome.
Yeah. I liked all that. The secondary characters in this film actually pick it up too. They're not a drag on the rest of the story. I thought they were an addition to it. Sometimes you get secondary characters and they're kind of just filler. This one actually feel like they were trying to give each one a little bit of a personality and things like that. And I thought that was well done as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I do like how you do you start to care for these characters. At the beginning they look like throwaway characters. I mean, they're not given a lot of development, but they're given enough development where you know where these characters are going, especially if you are an anime or manga fan.
Right.
So you know that they're either going to be expendable characters or they're going to be characters that you're going to go, aw, that kind of sucks that they died.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Doug Liman's actually next film is going to be Splinter Cell. So I'm actually looking forward to that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So another like military type, where there's a lot of military action in it and stuff.
Oh yeah. If any of the fans know what Splinter Cell is, it's based on a Tom Clancy book and also a video game called Splinter Cell, about a technically like a spy who, if you're that type of game player, the game is based on a character that pretty much goes throughout his missions, doing the mission without, causing much of a stir. So if he does kill somebody, make sure you hide the body.
Oh, gotcha.
Otherwise, yeah, and you pretty much sneak in the shadows. If you can avoid the person, avoid him. So it's that type of video game, and it'll be interesting to see Doug Liman after this huge action film take on a movie like that. Because if they're since he did The Bourne Identity, I think he can do that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit off on the Splinter Cell thing then, but that would be cool to see him do that. I definitely thought The Bourne Identity was awesome, and like I said, this guy hasn't made any really, films that I would consider subpar in quite some time. So it sounds like he's getting better and better as he goes, and something. Like I said, I'm not familiar with Splinter Cell, obviously. But I would think that taking on bigger properties is something that the studios wouldn't be afraid of. Even though this one didn't do a great at the box office, it may get a push with word of mouth, and DVD sales and Blu-ray and all of that. So, and also it is still in the theaters too. So
it is. The budget on this really wasn't as high as you might think. It was only $178 million. That may seem high for some action movie standards. It actually made its budget back with $352 million at the box office. I don't know if that's international or just I'm not looking at international. I think that's
right.
It might just be local or domestic. Yeah. But I would definitely. I pre-ordered this film already, so I know
nice.
I know I'm going to get it on Blu-ray because I enjoyed it so much. And let's see, what else about this film? Did you like the music? Was the music to you? Did it stir you, or is it just generic?
I'm really kind of when it comes to movies, I'm a music connoisseur, which is, and I don't know if I'll mention this movie in every podcast we ever do, but Sucker Punch I thought had one of the best soundtracks ever in a film ever. Period. Just because of the nature of the film. It had kind of a techno type feel to it, a little bit of kind of a few shots to the oldies and things like that. Just kind of updating things like that. To me, there wasn't a ton that was memorable about this soundtrack, which I'm not saying that it didn't go with the movie, but I don't know if it really made me think, oh wow, this is incredible. Oddly enough, I thought probably the best soundtrack I've seen this summer when it comes to soundtracks, probably for Spider-Man 2, it made Spider-Man 2. It had a lot of dubstep in it, which some people can't stand, but I thought for what they were shooting, especially during the fight scenes, it actually really ratcheted up the feel of the action scenes. I just didn't really get that in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Christoph Beck, I believe, who did the film score here. I enjoyed the music for what it was, but the soundtrack I really liked for a Tom Cruise film was probably Oblivion. I thought that was that held more emotion to the character, what he was dealing with, and the situation he was put in. I just enjoyed that soundtrack. I actually own that soundtrack, so after I saw the film, I'm like, I must own the soundtrack. It is awesome.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I'm not saying that Oblivion didn't get its due, but I was kind of surprised to see it hadn't, it didn't really catch fire like I kind of would have hoped it to, because that Oblivion, even though it came out, was it last year, 2 years ago?
I think, a couple of years ago.
Was freaking amazing. Yeah. And just about every aspect of that film, especially visually, was incredible. And definitely the soundtrack in that one stirred me more than the soundtrack of this one did. Exactly.
All right, so before we get to a rating, do you have any final thoughts on this film? Not really. I mean, I have a couple. There's a part of me that kind of wants a part two to this one. It could easily be a standalone. But this one, I kind of want to know and see a little bit more than what I saw. It did. Don't get me wrong. It did feel like a complete movie, but this kind of really thoughtful, well laid out
sci-fi. There needs to be more of it, you know. We just reviewed Snowpiercer last time, and Planet, I think, really delivered on that. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, but yeah, I think there needs to be more of these types of movies, and it'd be kind of cool if they could figure out a twist or a way to do a second one on this. But outside of that, I really don't have a whole lot more to say than what I've said. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you know what? You're right. They do need more movies like this. They do need more movies like Oblivion and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and they need sci-fi that's not throwaway sci-fi, not just like junk sci-fi, which I like to call, because when you have that, it just gives sci-fi a bad name, personally, in my opinion. Because
Right.
you can do so much. Sometimes you can say so much in those type of films. One of the reasons why sci-fi is so memorable is because the really memorable sci-fi films have something to say. They usually have a message that they're trying to get out, or they're talking about society today, or how society will be if we keep going the way we're going, like we were
Right.
talking about Snowpiercer last time.
Right.
And it, not just talking about where we're going, but where we are right now.
Right.
And
Right.
as far as this film is concerned, since it was based on a manga, you did get all those manga points in there. You got all, look at the characters, you got, the action from the book, but I enjoyed every single part of it. There, like I said earlier, there were parts in there that I thought that they could have done differently. At least the characters could have done differently. Maybe they weren't thinking in the right head at
Right.
the time.
Right.
And he does try to reboot some things. He, after so many times, because he has to see the people that he's fighting with die over and over, and we don't know exactly how many times he goes back. He could go back hundreds or even thousands of times. We have no idea how many times he goes into that loop.
Right. Right. Yeah, it doesn't really go into that, and it's probably better for the audience if they didn't, because it can get then you're talking 2, 3, 4 hour movie as opposed to what we wound up getting, which I think this thing moves really fast, a lot like Snowpiercer, but even faster. And it's just boom, 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 boom once it gets going, and I really thought that aspect of it was cool. I just recently this year started watching manga, so I'm not too familiar with the some of the things you're talking about as far as attributes and the characters and things like that. But I will. I mean, I picked up on a lot of things in the secondary character developments with that I thought were really cool. Like I said, it wasn't a ton developed, but because Cage cared about the secondary characters, it kind of makes you care about the secondary characters, which is I think from a cinematic standpoint, that's a triumph on the writer's part. And I think there were a lot of those little things that were really cool about this film.
Exactly. Yeah, I like how the screenplay was done by Christopher McQuarrie, Jez Butterworth, and John Henry Butterworth. And I thought they did a good job adapting All You Need Is Kill by I'm trying to get this right. It's in Japanese, so sorry, folks. Hiroshi Sakurazaka, I believe that's how you say his name. And I thought they did a good job adapting it. I haven't read the whole thing, but just looking through the pictures,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a translation with me, so
Cool.
I need to get one that's more translated.
Right.
But, just looking through it, it really follows along with the storyline. Not every bit. They do have to take their poetic license when they when adapting this into a live action film, especially the main character. But I thought they did a fantastic job, and this was definitely a film that, since it is still in theaters, is a film that you should see right now if it's at your theater. But definitely purchase it if you don't get a chance, because it's one of these films I wish was released more in the summer than like early, before the summertime, because the summertime is when the big blockbuster movies come out, and I'm really disappointed when films like this sort of get left before, everybody really wants to go out and see these movies over and over again.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
in the case of Snowpiercer from our last review, you get limited release and very few people actually get to see the film.
Right.
But no, I definitely enjoyed this film and I recommend it fully. So with that, we're going to our rating for the film. So Jess, would you like to give the rating for the film?
Sure. Yeah. I gave this one a 5 out of 7, which this summer has actually been that's a pretty good rating. It's the same rating I gave the last X-Men movie. So for me, that's pretty good. The rating definition for a 5 out of 7 for me, it says basically this is a vision that's worth your time. This movie is one that you missed probably along the way, and as Jeremy and I have discussed, you probably have not seen this. But it deserves better than that. After you go up to the movie poster and apologize, you can definitely go in and see it or rent it or buy it. The movie probably had someone that shocked you at how well they did. At least one major epic fight scene that made you say, man, I can't believe I almost missed that one. That's the end of the rating definition. But with this one, I know that we talked about the box office a little bit. Worldwide, it did do actually really quite well. 350 million. Domestically, though, it only got just below 100,000. It's been out for several weeks now. It's at 96 domestically. So if you haven't had a chance to see this, you really should go out and see it, because the better films like this do, the more of them we'll get to see. And I think that's kind of my plea to the fans out there. These are the kinds of movies that we need to be watching.
Yeah, well, these are the type of films that studios should really start investing in, because people, like we said with Snowpiercer, people are smarter these days. They want good stories. They want good plot lines. They want characters that they could really, enjoy watching on screen than these, I'm sorry to say, throwaway characters from like Michael Bay that you're infuriated, but for some reason you still paid to go see the movie. But you're infuriated when you're watching the film because you're like, these people are stupid and this story is stupid. Why am I sitting in the theater and why did I pay, $10, $50 to see this film? Well, apparently, either if you're a critic, I can understand. If you're not, I don't know what you're doing in that theater. You're sort of a masochist because you keep doing it over and over again. But no, when I hate to say this, but when people see films like that, and they actually go in and pay for the films, and everyone knows that film might be trash, and the critics say it's trash, and people still see it, they're just encouraging studios to invest more and more in storylines and scripts that don't have substance in them. And,
I hear what you're saying.
And that goes with anything. That's not just sci-fi, but that goes with drama, that goes with horror, that goes with any other genre of film. When you just have these throwaway films, you might as well just show them on television. Like have one of those straight to DVD films, because
Sharknado.
Well, that was made on purpose. If you see the making, the director knew what he was making on purpose. But never expected to be that big, because there are so many movies like it. You would never think that people would go like, well, I saw this one. It's kind of like this one. But, that's sort of like one of those, like a Blair Witch Project type of situations where out of the woodwork, all of a sudden, it's a cultural phenomenon. I want the cultural phenomenon to be people wanting to see good films with good stories and good, like I said, good plot lines. So, as far as this film is concerned, I give this film 4 out of 5 mechanized groundhogs.
Right on.
Because that damn groundhog, he keeps repeating the day over and over again, and we never get to see Bill Murray.
Right. Yeah, and this is something we really haven't talked about too much. The whole plot twist behind that, the reason why the day's repeating, is awesome. It's just awesome. So that's all I'll say about that. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely. So go out and see this in movie theaters. if you, like I said earlier, if you can't see it, purchase it on Blu-ray or DVD when it comes out. And also, I would like to thank my co-host, Jess, for being on again. Thank you for being on our new film show, or at least newly named film show, Cinematic GNERDgasm.
Yeah, no worries. I enjoyed it. Anytime.
Awesome. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It has all my podcasts that I do. Also, go to my Facebook at facebook.com/JPOOL's GNERD Corner. And would you like to pimp out your stuff too while we're at it?
Yeah, I write, Jeremy and I both write for a site called Geekorama, www.geekorama.net. You can read our reviews there. My written review of this movie will be up there hopefully shortly. I also do have another blog site at Radioactive Zombie Werewolves blog at blogspot.com. I'm actually thinking about changing that name to something shorter. So if you guys have any amazing names, go ahead and put them in the comments on Jeremy's video or wherever you want to comment that at, because I'm looking for a new shorter name for my blog site. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you, listeners, for listening to our new episode of Cinematic GNERDgasm. And have a good night.
Have a good night, guys.
You do know what's happening to me.
What happened to you happened to me. You hijacked that power. I need your help.
With what exactly?
Winning the war. We can do this. Just come here every day and I'll train you.
This is not
No matter what I do, this is as far as you go.
Why does it matter what happens to me?
I'm not a soldier.
Of course you're not. You're a weapon.